We're back. And unfortunately, I lied. We have one more match in round number 7 before we can move on to those initial matches. Subtle, I apologize.
How am I supposed to build up trust in this relationship if you just keep telling bold-faced lies like this, TJ?
I don't know. You tell me.
You do seem like you regret it deeply.
I really do.
I can see that pain in your eyes that you've hurt me. I know it's there, even if you wouldn't confess it. Here it is. A lovable little face. I can't stay mad at you. Let's play some Hearthstone.
I regret everything.
Job done.
But we have our last match.
We do.
Game number 5, Glory versus Blackgod. One player is going to move up to 5-2. The other player is going to be forcibly removed from their venue.
Yeah.
Reporting for
A
duty.
hook will appear from the right-hand side of their static webcam images, and suddenly the first piece of movement you see the entire time with them just being quaked off.
Mind if I roll knee?
Godspeed.
Yeah.
But we have ourselves a good old-fashioned even paladin versus control priest.
To me.
And I, for one, like control priest in this one. Sato, what do you think?
I would tend to agree with you, TJ. There's just way too much clearing power available and very little defensive game in the Paladin deck against what the Priest tries to do once they've stabilized, and between, you know, all the Dustbreakers, all the Primordial Drakes, all the Psychic Screams. It's just too much a lot of the time for the Paladin to overcome. Generally, any deck that has a on-demand answer for an on-curve call to arms on a very surface level is favored in the matchup. And usually in those matchups, what the Paladin then needs to do is divert to that card that you just see get drawn there from Blackgod, which is Blessing of Kings. Because there are very few control decks in the metagame right now that play removal against a wide board of weenies and spot targeted removal against big boys as well. So if they can deal with... You're all right, in a minute. If they can deal with your call to arms, there's very little chance they can also deal with your Blessing of King.
He said weenies.
What are you, 6?
So back to the game. Glory does need a Dustbreaker here. He's going to want to survive this onslaught.
Hearthstone After Hours with TJ Sun.
Downward Velvet's a good card.
Reporting for duty.
Especially good for adjacent minions. Let's get some post-war attack.
Tell you what's not good for adjacent casters, and that is TJ Sanders. Shadow of Death is picked up, though. That is the one clean answer. Usually down to 1 copy of Shadow of Death in these lists for the Control Priest these days. They just rely on Shadow Reaper Anduin to be their big threat later on in terms of removal of big boys. But the threat checks are going to keep on coming. Sunkeeper Tarim drops down, and again, this is a big enough board to demand removal from Glory.
Yeah, I mean, this whole matchup comes down to just removal checks from the Priest, right?
Yeah.
And they just have so much as they scale up the curve. You have to put so much pressure on, or gotten so many resources out of the way from the Priest by turn 7.
Right.
Or else everything's just going to be kind of reset.
Mind if I roll knee?
And then if you're Psychic Screaming a bunch of like Silverhand recruits and low impact minions, then that just means you're going to draw those more often throughout the game.
Right.
Lessens the quality of your draw. You're not going to be getting those Direwolf alphas.
And usually, when we say a matchup is all about threat checks, like the aggressive deck plays a thing and the control deck needs the answer, usually that's code for the aggro deck being favored, because you'd rather be in Hearthstone, you'd rather be the deck answering the questions. The problem with that theory in this matchup is that the priest removals all have so much redundancy. Like almost every board state that doesn't involve a Blessing of Kings, you just need to deal 3 damage.
Yes.
So like a Duskbreaker can do that, a Psychic Scream also, of course, does that, does infinite damage, just shoves them back in the deck. A Primordial Drake, although it doesn't quite get that job done, there are still a bunch of 3/2s and 2/2s in the deck as well. So any of your AoEs do the job at any turn that they come out, and that's the big problem for Paladin to deal with.
Yeah, but this is a sick turn. Wild Pyramids are probably the best pickup in the deck, honestly. It goes with the Knife Juggler. and is going to draw 2 additional cards for Glory, which I think is the big thing. And to be honest, he's just going to throw out the second Divine Hymn, so that's 4 extra cards. And if Blackgod wasn't feeling uncomfortable about this situation before, he 100% is now. Dustbreaker's also active. Saving grace is that Valnir is going to go on to Serenite Chain Gang, but Psychic Scream number 2 is waiting in the hand.
Yeah.
And that completely gets rid of the Valnir.
Yeah, one of the few ways to do that effectively. When Valnir lands on a Serenite Chain Gang, it's one of the kind of unreported strengths of that combination. It's like, yeah, you double up on your stat buff, but you also make it twice as difficult for your opponent to not give you that Valnir back at the end.
Yep.
Psychic Scream, one of the few answers to do that cleanly, and Glory has everything he needs right now. Gaining a ton of armor on top of, gaining a ton of health at least total on top of everything that he already had. And this is looking like a slow march towards defeat here for Blackgod. The board state Glory has here, he might even just choose to deal with this straight up.
Reporting for duty.
Depending on what he picks up here to parallel with this Pyromancer, he has already used a bunch of his cheap spells though, so it's a little unlikely. So yeah, the Acolyte will trade. Shadow Visions would have been nice to pick up Raw before the Acolyte got traded, but now with the after the Acolyte trades, just to get his card draw, he sticks the Psychic Scream, everything back in the deck. Let's go fishing for a game ender with Mind Blast. Yep.
Is someone injured?
Funny how that works. The Psychic Scream minion, the worst one, always seems to just be sitting right on top.
Reporting for duty.
Meddlesome insects.
Even an equality draw here, it's like, well, sure, you dealt with a board and dealt 6 damage to your opponent, putting them at a crisp 26. Oh no, wait, 24. Whew. No, 26. I mean, 30.
Would you like to phone a friend?
Yeah. I like to call That's Admirable to the stand. He's usually the guy that crunches my numbers. Wow.
Yeah, Avenging Wrath just to try and clear and relieve some of this pressure doesn't get there. The reason he's so desperate to try and clear there is that he fears this Alex Straza just ending his game, because now it's Alex Straza and push minions with initiative, which essentially bypasses that 15 health limit. He's not even going to go for it. He's just going to load up a Shadow Reaper Anduin first by the looks of things.
Sure.
I guess, yeah. I mean, pick a play and execute it that doesn't involve hitting concede, and you are probably chilling this game.
Yeah, well, I guess this sets up a guaranteed lethal. The other one, I guess, a quality consecration could have bought him some time.
Sure.
This one, yeah, just has hero power, Mind Blast, hero power. So Blackgod concedes. Glory takes the series, moves up to 5-2 score. So again, unsure of his tiebreakers, but I do remember Glory starting off really well.
Yes.
In the Swiss rounds. He took his losses very late, and the players that he was going up against on stream went on to have great scores later on. So if I had to guess, I would say he's in a great spot. But unfortunately, Blackgod is eliminated at a 4-3 score.
Yeah, and it's a player that we didn't really feature at all. We made a very, very good run. Sometimes that's just the luck of the draw in terms of getting your name on broadcast, which is, you know, a big goal for some of these players who have ground through the seasons to get to this stage where they're suddenly broadcast to the world. And sometimes it's just a bit unfortunate because we can't cover everyone all the time.
That's right. Got to win to make that happen.
There you go.
But now we do have the top 8 ready. So let's go and take a look at the brackets. Group A, Matsuri, Glory, Kin, and Blood Trail. Wow.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, the Glory prediction worked out. His tiebreakers were good enough to get there. Kin, another player that we just watched that was played pretty impressive as well, has that matchup against Blood Trail. Pretty strong looking Group A, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. And taking a look at Group B, Tensoku, Dakarp, Shaodai, and Jinsu take the final 4 spots of the top 8. And another interesting thing to note, Shaodai did lose round 7, so we went through the 7 rounds of Swiss without an undefeated player for Asia-Pacific. So we'll have to see. That one looks like a pretty tough group. Dakarp, formerly known as Angry Carp, picked up by Dak to compete in the pro team standings. It's gonna be happening later. I think they have like 6 people, so like imagine they're gonna have two teams, including Dak Ridius, the points leader. So looking like a strong team, and now have a representative in the top 8.
Yeah, and then Zhao Dai is someone that I'm very interested to see if they can go forward, because we talked about at the beginning of the day, we don't really have like a bunch of tournament history for him.
No,
he seems to be a ladder player only. So suddenly when all the tension ramps up and he's now a couple of games away from going through, is he able to keep his composure and find all the right lines? We'll have to wait and see.
The pressure's on, but we don't have to wait long to see because the initial matches are getting underway.
With all 7 rounds of Swiss complete, we've identified the top players from the southern tip of New Zealand.